Hey everyone, I'm Meg. I'm one of your InventoryLab customer champions, and thank you so much for joining me for part one of the two-part series that covers batch basics, listing and completing a private FBA batch. Batch Basics is one of many live courses that InventoryLab offers through our customer coaching program. Batch Basics is typically about an hour and a half demo, but we're bringing you the condensed version broken up into two parts for the summit since we have such an action-packed event schedule. Part one is going to be a step-by-step walkthrough that will cover creating a batch settings, adding items to a batch, and much, much more, all the way up until you sync your product feeds. Part two will pick up from there and will be a demo all the way through creating shipments, assigning box contents, and troubleshooting some common errors you may run into. This session is completely interactive, so feel free to ask questions along the way. We're going to try to get through as many as time allows, but if your questions aren't covered in this time, don't fret. Our support team is ready and available to answer any InventoryLab questions, so feel free to submit any questions in the form of a support ticket to support@inventorylab.com. So let's get started. First things first. So this session is all about batch basics, but what exactly is a batch? Simply put, a batch is a session that contains an item or group of items that you want to send to Amazon. Think of a batch kind of like a shopping cart you use at a store. While shopping, you can add items to your cart. You may put some things back. You may grab more of the same item if you find a really good deal. You may even swap items around. The batch, or shopping cart in this example, is where all of your items are held until you're ready to check out by syncing your product feeds. The checkout process in this case is where you're ready to sync your product feeds over to Amazon. And at that point, you'll have the option to either create shipments in InventoryLab or create shipments in Seller Central directly. Something to keep in mind is that a batch is a separate thing from a shipment. There may be times when you complete a batch without ever creating a shipment if you prefer to create them in Seller Central directly. Likewise, there may be times when many shipments are created from the same batch. Shipments will have their own unique shipment IDs and can be named something entirely different from the batch name. This is why it's important to differentiate the two. All right, now let's get started with our presentation portion now that we've got that out of the way. So when you're ready to start your batch, you're going to do that from your regular InventoryLab login on the list and prep page. To create a new batch, you're going to start by pressing this beautiful green plus new batch button, and that's going to bring up all of your batch settings. The first setting up is the batch name. This can be changed at any time. The default for the batch name is going to be a timestamp of when you clicked the beautiful new batch button, but you can change it to anything. So let's give it something a little bit more fun. So IL Summit batch basics. Why not? Not super fun, but fun enough. Parts one and two. Cool. Next thing is going to be the option to include a buy list. So if your team likes to work off of spreadsheets where as you're working, you add items like the ASIN, MSKU, quantity to a spreadsheet, you can easily import these into your batch so you don't have to manually add your items one by one. So using this option, you can select a file, a .csv file containing your buy list, and import it. If you forget this step, or if you have multiple buy lists that you'd like to add to your batch, you can do that in another part. So don't fret, we'll cover that later. The next thing, and one of the most important settings is going to be your ship from address. So I'm going to skip on down here. Your ship from address is going to be used to determine if you're creating shipments, what fulfillment centers are going to be available. So let's say, for example, I'm in the state of North Carolina, which I am. I would want to make sure that my ship from address was from North Carolina. Otherwise, if I choose this Maryland address, I may get fulfillment centers that are way far away and may incur me some more inbound shipping fees, which nobody wants that. So just be sure you have the correct ship from address so that when it's time to create shipments, those fulfillment centers are going to be closer to where you are. I know I skipped around here, so back to buy lists. If you use our mobile app Scoutify, and I highly recommend you do if you like to do some arbitrage on the go, you can create your buy list in Scoutify, and instead of having to go through the process of emailing them to yourself, downloading the files, saving them, and then importing them here, they're just right there available from the drop-down menu. The only exception are archived buy lists. Those don't show up here just because they're put on hold. but you can reactivate those and then they'll be available from the dropdown. All right, back on schedule. We've got the packing type. So this demo is going to focus on individual products. InventoryLab does allow you the option to list and ship case-packed items. Those have a little bit more requirements, so we're going to focus on individual products today. We have more resources available if you're interested in shipping case-pack, though, so we've got you covered. The next thing is going to be the fulfillment channel. So this demo focuses on FBA, just so we can show you the process of creating shipments and entering box contents in part 2. But if you ship merchant fulfilled or FBM, fulfilled by merchant, the process is just about the same. The only difference is you will not have the option to create shipments with merchant fulfilled, because you send those out yourself when your customers order your products. Oh, quick question here. It looks like we have a question. Can I create my own buy list? Absolutely. You can create your own buy list. InventoryLab has a support article that walks you through all the steps for creating buy lists. And at the bottom, there's even a template that you can use to get started creating your own buy lists. That way you make sure you have all of the columns needed to get you started. All right. Let's see, we're on private workflow. And if you ever have questions on the settings page, anytime you see a blue hyperlink, give that a click, and that's going to take you over to our support article with some more information. So speaking of buy lists, importing your buy list, this is the article that pops up. So if you have questions about that, here you go, walks you through the whole step. And you even have video too. So if you want to create your own buy list, there's a link there, and that's going to bring you to the template, and you've got videos and additional tips there too. Same thing goes for any of these other hyperlinks. Oh, so sorry. It says it's not showing on my screen. Okay. Let's see. I chose to share my entire screen, but we're doing it live, people. So when you click the hyperlink, trust me, it's going to take you to the support article. That way you can get more information for importing your buy list. Okay, the next thing is going to be our label preference. So do you prefer to label your own items? This means your barcode label. The selection will be either you will label your own items, FBA should label them and reject ones that can't be labeled, or FBA will label them and you'll label ones that can't be labeled FBA. If you have any questions about which labeling preference best fits your workflow, again, click this hyperlink. It's not working on the stream, so I'm not going to click it for you, but click this hyperlink and it'll take you over to a support article with all of the differences in the label type. That way you can take a look and see which one's going to work best for you in your workflow. Next setting is going to be box content. So if you like creating shipments in InventoryLab, we give you the option to go ahead and input your box content right from within the app before you ever head over to Seller Central. If you prefer not to do that, you can turn this off or you can leave it on. Since part 2 of the demonstration is going to deal with box contents, we're going to leave it on. The next setting is your minimum and maximum price preferences, which is just a mouthful. Now this is really going to benefit those who use a repricing app, such as some of the ones that we integrate with, like Be Cool, Aura, Inform.co. This gives you the option to capture your minimum and maximum prices for your items. So you can choose not to capture them, meaning that box is not going to be available to you. You can choose to send it to Amazon if you have a repricing tool that integrates directly with Seller Central, or you can choose to save it to InventoryLab if you use one of our integrations. That way you can have that here for when the integration does the sync. Next thing is going to be the shipping method. So this is really for information purposes and kind of like a fail-safe. So the shipping method is going to have to be chosen in Seller Central when you go to finish up your shipment. The reason why we have this selection here is because there is a cap on the number of boxes you can make with small parcel delivery. With small parcel delivery, you can't make more than 200 boxes. So to keep you from accidentally going over that limit, if you think you may run into that and you want to stay below the 200 box limit so that you can be sure to send small parcel delivery, click this and InventoryLab will give you a warning if you're about to go over. If you think you may need to go over that box limit, you can choose less than a truckload. Even if you never go over 200 boxes, you're still going to have to choose this in Seller Central. So choosing less than a truckload is really just to get away from the fail-safe, that 200 box maximum. So if you find that you only do 180 boxes, no worries. You can choose small partial delivery once you go back to Seller Central. All right, now that all of our settings look great, the next step is to create. So create our batch. Now you can see in open batches, our batch that we've created. Hovering over it is going to give you a little bit of information here. But if you need to take a look at the settings that you chose previously, click these 3 horizontal lines. So anytime you see the 3 horizontal lines in InventoryLab, that's an additional menu that will pop up. Give that a click, and now you have some more options. So remember when I said if you forgot to import a buy list or you have multiple buy lists, here's where you're going to add that. So if you need to add more buy lists, or if you forgot in the first step, this is where you're going to do the import process here. You can print all labels for all items in the batches using this button, or you can edit and view the batch settings. So this settings page looks a little bit different now since we've created our batch. The batch name is still open, so you can change the batch name at any time. You can also update and change the ship from address. I highly recommend you do that before creating shipments though, because remember, we want to make sure that the fulfillment center's returns correspond to where we're actually shipping the items from. But you'll notice here that these options are not available to be edited. So once a batch has been created, if you needed to change the box content setting, you'll need to close this batch and start a new one with the settings that you need. So hopefully you've caught it early. If not, and you have questions, you can always reach out to support and we can walk you through the process. All right, so let's get started adding some items. So to add an item, you're going to use the search bar up at the top right here. So there are a couple of different options you can use. So if you utilize our unlisted inventory, which will be gone over a little bit more in the inventory management course available, if you use unlisted inventory, you can select. So anytime you search for an item, InventoryLab will peruse the Amazon catalog along with your unlisted inventory, just in case you happen to have those items on hand and want to list from there. You can choose just to pull from the Amazon catalog if you don't deal with unlisted inventory, or if you just want to list it brand spanking new. And while you're in a batch, so let's say you have dozens of items listed and you need to quickly search through your batch to find one specific thing instead of scrolling, you can choose batch and do a search here too. Typically, you're going to want to use the Amazon plus unlisted option, which is what we're going to do here. So, well, that's strange. All right, so let's search for our first item. So using the search bar, you can search by keyword. You can search by the ASIN, the ISBN, UPC. So let's say you have one of those barcode scanners that plug in. You can plug in your barcode scanner, click in the search bar, scan your item, and that'll pull up the UPC there. I recommend using the ASIN though. That's my preferred way to look up items. So if you ever list anything that has just a number of variations, you're going to want to make sure that you choose the item with the correct variation. So if you list even laptop covers can have 40 or more variations for the one brand. Using the ASIN is going to guarantee that you pull in the right one though. If you search by title a keyword, you'll have the option to select the right variation, but using the exact ASIN is going to be a guarantee that you've got the right one. So we will search here. I just copy and pasted the ASIN in there. So now you can see, since we've chosen the Amazon catalog and unlisted, so we have an unlisted match. So we have 45 of these items available in our unlisted inventory, and then just the regular Amazon catalog search. We're going to leave unlisted alone for this session. So we're just going to choose the Amazon match. Now, if you've ever listed this item before, InventoryLab's automatically going to recognize the ASIN and give you the option to replenish any MSKUs you've used previously. This includes any archived MSKUs or deleted MSKUs. They'll pull it up since we recognize that you did at one point have this item in your inventory. So something to keep in mind is that the condition makes a difference. So Amazon frowns upon having multiple MSKUs in the same condition per ASIN. So if you have an MSKU available in the new condition, you wouldn't want to keep creating more. You would want to either use that MSKU or have Seller Central change the MSKU name. This way you don't have a bunch of duplicate MSKUs for the same ASIN in the same condition. Now these two are okay because one of these is in the used like new condition and the other one is in the new condition. So we're good there. Now you'll have the option to either replenish or delete your MSKUs. You can ignore any matching MSKUs and create a new one. What I will recommend, first tip and trick of the day, don't delete an MSKU if you have any in stock or inbound quantities. This will automatically delete that MSKU and strand your inventory, which is just not a fun time. So if you have any in stock or inbound quantities, you can replenish the same MSKU or just ignore and create a new one. But what you don't want to do is delete an MSKU that you have something in stock or inbound. Otherwise, your items are stranded, and that's just a big headache, and nobody wants that for you. All right, so we're going to take this MSKU here and just click replenish. So this will bring up the items detail page. So we've got some at a glance information about these items. This is the rank. This is at the exact moment that you chose to replenish this item. That's the rank. You know that ranks can change several times a day, and we can't keep up with it. So at the exact moment that you chose to replenish that MSKU, it pulls in the current rank. You've got the category, size tier. If there were any prep types like polybagging or bubble wrap, that would be listed here. All right, so the first thing is going to be the reminders. So for expiration dated inventory, like grocery or makeup or medicine, this is really going to be kind of key because you want to make sure that you know when to pull those items. Any items that have an expiration date, which you'll enter in here towards the bottom, are automatically going to create a reminder for you just so you can keep track of any expiration dated inventory. But you can create a reminder for anything. So let's say you're listing seasonal items and you know after a few months you're going to want to pull that from the fulfillment center. You can create a reminder message just so you know, hey, time to pull the Christmas stuff because we are well into March and those things are going to just sit there. So you can use the reminder message to give yourself a little heads up, set your date, and then those as they pop up will show up in the little envelope icon here. The next thing is going to be the tax code. So this is going to be the tax code associated with the item itself. So this lets Amazon know how much tax is going to be collected for the items from your customers. So not you, but when your customer buys the product, what tax code should be applied when they make their purchase. Then you're going to list the quantity. So let's say we got 10 of these. You can input that here. Now you can notice here, this is showing the average cost per unit. So we have a tool that's an optional tool called the total cost calculator. So some users like to list just the sticker price of the item as the buy cost. Some users like to include any discounts or sales tax, maybe additional prep fees. It's completely up to you. And we have a tool that can help. So clicking the total cost calculator is going to bring up this modal. So let's say the sticker price for these is 5 cents. If you wanted to apply any sales tax or let's say another prep fee, you can add that in here. So let's say you have a prep fee of 25 cents per item. That takes your cost per unit from the sticker price of 5 cents to 30 cents per unit. Clicking OK will save that and that will update the average cost. If you don't want to use the total cost calculator and you find that you need to turn that off just really quickly, I can help you there too. So it's just a quick detour. You're going to go up to the right-hand side. This will be your name in the top right corner. And then you're going to click and hit settings. Hopefully your internet is much faster than mine. Okay, down to list. And here you're going to see the option for the total cost calculator. If you want to turn that off, click the little toggle and then click the X. Poof, now it's gone. So now you can make the choice to either keep the average cost per unit as 30 cents, which included a prep fee, or you can put it back down to 5 cents if you just wanted to do the sticker price. It's completely up to you. Based on my settings, we have to remember the last entry. So since I've listed this item before, the last purchase date is going to populate here. So you want to make sure you update the purchase date. So we do pull in first first in, first out order. So I'm going to say that I purchased these a couple days ago. There we go. And your supplier here. So any suppliers that you have listed will be available from this drop-down menu, or you can choose to just enter one in. So if you're, well, I've got an additional extension that just fills it into, but if you don't have that pesky extension, then all of your suppliers are going to be available. You can edit these as you go, or again, you can just type brand spanking new in here. So let's say that we did get it from Costco. So that's pulled up. Now we're moving on to this button here. So let's say I went outsourcing and I went outsourcing on a couple different days and I went to a couple of different suppliers and made some purchases. You can absolutely list those in here too. So our original quantity based on the March 20th date from Costco is listed here. But if we want to add something new, we can click that here. And now we have the option to add a new row. So we'll click add row, enter in some new information. Let's say I didn't get quite as good of a deal at, I don't know, Michael's. And I did that the day after. But I got 15 of those. Still pretty good. Now keep an eye on this area here, because once you save the changes, this is going to change. The total quantity is going to update for the total between both purchases, and the average cost per unit is also going to adjust based on how many of each unit you have per buy cost per purchase. The purchase date is also going to update because we had 2 separate purchase dates, as well as the suppliers. So if you ever need to take a look at these again, click manage 2 purchases, and you can make any edits, changes. The trash can will delete these, save your changes, and you're good to go. The next thing is going to be expiration date. So if you have expiration dated inventory, that's where you'd put the expiration date here. If you don't, if you'd like to tab through these things, you can always disable the expiration date if you know you're not going to be listing anything with an expiration date in there. That way you don't have to save you an extra little tab as you're moving through your settings, or you can just keep it open, completely up to you. Next thing is going to be shipping. So this is an estimate just for estimation purposes based on a setting that you set up here. So this is the shipping rate based on the shipping rate of 50 cents per pound. If you click on here, it'll actually bring you up to the setting. This is a calculation setting. So if you know about what your shipping rate's going to be, you can input that in here, and that'll factor into the total profit as you're listing your items. So this is just an additional tool. You can choose to leave that blank if you like, or adjust it as you go. Totally optional. It's just there for estimation. Now down here is going to be your MSKU. So this is the MSKU that we replenished, and we replenished this in the new condition. So that's what's going to show here. If you had an item that was used in any other condition, so used like new, used good, you may have some condition notes. We see this a lot with users who sell books, so secondhand books. You may have something like wear and tear on the spine, but the pages are good, still totally reasonable. It's a classic. That may be in your condition notes, but since it's new, we wouldn't have any condition notes, but that's where you'd find them. Next, we have over here, we've got the offers box. So Amazon calculates what they consider competitive offers. InventoryLab doesn't do this. Amazon provides us with this information. So there may be times when you see only 1 or 2 offers in this area, but maybe 36 or so over here. That means that Amazon only considers the displayed offers as the competitive offers. If that ever happens to you, you can see all of the offers down here. This is your research shortcut tab. This is customizable, and some of the customization options will be gone through in our settings customer coaching course. So if you ever need to see all of the offers, click here, and that'll bring up the Amazon list with all of the offers available. And so you can take a look just to make sure that's still a good buy for you. Now in here, you'll see anything that's listed FBA is going to be in this green column. The little cube denotes what offer is winning the buy box. So if you want to match the buy box, you can click that, and that's going to fill in the list price for you. And the condition is going to be on the side here. Now, these 2 columns, the red and the blue one, are going to be for merchant fulfilled items. So any merchant merchant fulfilled offers will show up if it's in the new condition in the red column, or if it's used, it'll show up here in the blue column. If it's used, it's also going to have one of these little ovals that's let you know the condition too. So used good would be UG, used like new, and so on. All right, now we've got the list price. So you can change this here, and adjusting the list price will also let you know what the net profit is per unit. So this factors in fulfillment fees, referral fees, also takes into account your shipping rate and your cost per unit. So all of that's calculated to display what your net profit would be per unit based on all of those factors. You can see your return on investment too as well. If you wanted to adjust your list price based on your desired ROI, you can do that here. You can click in here and change it. So right now we're at 4,300% ROI. So I feel like that's pretty good. But if you wanted to up that up a little bit, you could do that, and that would adjust the list price for you. All right, once everything is as it should be, we can add it to a batch. And again, I sure do hope that your internet's faster than mine. All right, now here our item is showing up. So we got 25 total, and you'll see we've got a couple of different suppliers and purchase dates. And you see our tentative destination is right here. So the tentative destination may change once you actually request your shipments. This is just our best guess as to where your items are going to be sent. Now that everything looks good here, we're going to click on the review batch. And of course, if you had multiple items, you'd add them as you go, but we are doing the condensed version. So we're just going to boogie on along. So review batch is going to give you an at a glance look at your items, so you can take a look here. Now, if you ever have a situation where you have dozens of items listed and you need to quickly delete them, this is where I would recommend that you do it. If you click on this little box, this action on selected is going to pop up and give you the option to delete these. So if you have a ton of items that you want to just get rid of just very quickly, go to your review batch instead of going from the list and prep page, and quickly click through here, do the delete, and that'll save you a ton of time. Once everything looks good here, you can make any adjustments as needed. You're going to, well, if you need to check on your purchases, you can check that there. Again, once everything looks good and you're ready to continue, you're going to click the submit button. And this is where the magic happens. So this is where your product feeds are going to be sent automatically. And this is where you're going to have the option to request proposed shipments from Amazon. Now, again, you can choose not to request any proposed shipments by unchecking that, and that will close your batch out and you'll be good to go. Your product feeds will be on the way to Amazon, and you can create your shipments in Seller Central. But if you'd like to do that, you would click here. So we're going to do that for part 2. So I'm going to click sync, and that will bring us to Step 3, proposed FBA shipments. And this is where we're going to end our presentation. Again, we're bringing you just the condensed version here. Part 2 is going to pick right back up from this very spot and get you all the rest of the way. So I know we're running a little bit low on time, but before we wrap up, does anyone have any last minute questions? No questions? Okay. These customer coaching courses can be taken anytime. You don't have to have a paid membership to InventoryLab. You can be in your trial period, and they can be taken multiple times. So let's say you got through this one session and you wanted to revisit it again, you can absolutely do so. There's no limit to how many times you can take these. And the customer coaching sessions are a lot more interactive. So you can ask questions as you go along in real time without typing them. A lot of times your coaches will have a lot of interactive back and forth. So there's a lot to be gotten out of there. And if you really want to expand your knowledge of InventoryLab, that's a great way to start. So I thank you all so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully I'll see you all on our part 2.